Seems that the college football playoff and the commissioners that control the possibility of having a college football playoff cannot come to an agreement, and we're going to now have this situation shelved probably at least for another year or two. And it all comes back basically to Jim Phillips, the ACC. For whatever reason, he feels some kind of emasculation towards the rest of the conferences. Well, what this is going to do, Jim, is that alliance that you had with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 may just be about to come crumbling down. Because there's a lot of hypocrisy in this that goes along with the ACC and what they're saying about why they don't want to play off. And now we're going to talk about it. How's it going out today, boys and girls in sporting land? This is JPC. I am the OCF. That is the outlaw of college football, one of the best acronyms of all time. And this is, and most importantly, the home of the Common Joe and Common Sally in the Know. Even more so than all those media talking heads. Now, getting right to it. Saw a little article today on CBS Sports by Dennis Dodd that basically was saying that the ACC sort of nixed the whole deal of the expansion with the playoff. Now, I haven't really decided whether I'm a big fan of the whole expansion deal yet or not, and jury's still out for me. I come from back in the day, a lot of you can remember this, when the national championship was not really decided on the field. It was decided in the polls at the end of the year. So back then, just getting two teams that were 1 and 2, which was the BCS, was something that we all prayed for and hoped for at least, and even our ancestors that loved college football have been hoping for since 1907, probably, when real football came about with the advent of the forward pass. So now, we got 4 teams. And I'll be honest with you, I'm happy with the 4 teams. I'm happy with 4 teams because I know what it used to be and how it used to be and how bad it used to be before the BCS came along and now the college football playoff. But if we're going to go to a 12-team playoff, then certain conferences need to get on board with everybody else and try to put their personal differences aside. It seems to me that the ACC has a personal axe to grind with the SEC, in my estimation, because of somewhat of an emasculation problem, I think, in football. While Clemson has won 2 national championships, and Florida State won one back in the middle of the teens decade, for the most part, that conference hasn't really been but one team for the past 5 or 6 years, and that is Clemson. Now that Clemson is sort of slipping a little bit, the ACC seems like they don't want to participate in a 4-team playoff for whatever reason. They make little alluding comments about how the 12 teams will water certain things down about the regular season, or how it's going to hurt players and student athletes and their academics and all this other yada yada mess that we all know is bullshit. When in reality, it comes down to a power stroke. That's all it is. Jim Phillips and Klivikov, whatever his name is for the Pac-12, both feel a little emasculated in my estimation. But here's the thing. They talk about we need to really think about this and think it through by going to 12 teams. That's a big number to go to. They ain't got a problem with the NCAA basketball tournament being 68 teams. 68 teams. Now, I remember back in the day when I was watching basketball, when I first started watching it, they had just expanded it and went to 48. And had to play in games like they do now. But one time when I was younger, from reading the history books, it was like 16 and then it was 32. So the ACC and the Pac-12 don't have an issue with basketball players playing 30 or 40 games a year and then playing a 6-game, possibly 7-game, if you're one of those playing games, 7 playoff games. They're okay with that. And they're okay with that because they got some footing in basketball, see. They feel like in football that they don't have footing for whatever reason. But what you don't realize, Jim Phillips and Klevikoff to some degree, is this would actually make it easier for you guys to get in the playoffs. If there's 3 SEC teams that are better than everybody else in the nation and they get in the playoffs, you know, that's going to leave just one spot for all the other conferences. And that could really seriously happen one day with any conference, not just the SEC. You know, and it's already happened a couple of times with 2 teams from the same conference, that being the SEC. The SEC takes up 2 spots. Cincinnati takes up a spot, and they're not a Power 5 conference. Well, then you have Pac-12 getting left out. You got, who else? The ACC got left out. The Big 12 got left out. So what this would do, Jim, is make it to where you guys could possibly have a seat at the table every year, unless you just tanked. Unless all your teams were beating up on each other and then they lost a game to some non-conference games. And all of y'all were like 8-3 or 9-3 at the end of the regular season. And then still with 3 losses, you still might be able to get that 12th spot. So I really think you're shooting yourself in the foot. I really do. And to all the West Virginia people out there, if you guys, y'all ones clamoring to be in the ACC, if I was you, I would take a serious look at not doing that, because it seems to me like the ACC has no backbone. That they got a little gun shy for whatever reason. They think that Clemson is the only team they got that's plausible as making the playoff every year, because Florida State slipped so much, and so has Miami. And it's just they're just looking out for basketball, because they have a better footing there, because that's their blue blood sport. And they also let Notre Dame go and come as they please. If I'm West Virginia or any other team that's just thinking about joining the ACC, I would take a deep breath and really think about this, because they have proven with these meetings that they're not a team player, and basically they have no backbone. And that's all I got to say about that. You guys and gals, tell me what you think about this situation, whether you think the ACC has a point, or whether you think they're just being a coward. And with that, I'm going to get off here. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams.